Okay, so well done on this. The marks were good, including one very bright spark who got it completely right. So very well done. So what I'm planning on doing today, we are going to go through it in reverse question order. You will see in the corner of each slide that I've got the percentage that we got for the class as a whole. Okay, so once you have got your 100% sorted, I want you to leave the lesson. There's no point just watching the rest of it unless you want to. I guess you can choose to if you want. You might pick up some sort of layout points or some exam points, but I don't mind if you feel like I know all this, that you just use your time more effectively and just carry on with those Dr. Frost papers. That's absolutely fine. So that one person who got 33 out of 33, I don't mind if they want to go already and work on that. Okay, so by far the hardest question was question 8. So we are going to start off with that. Okay, so let me just share my screen. So looking at this, lots of you made the assumption for some reason that that angle at D is 90 degrees. Now I know it looks like it is, but it isn't. Okay. So we'll work our way through it carefully in a minute, but the key learning points to pick up here, or the bits to pick up, this shape in the middle is a cyclic quad, okay? So that angle there and that angle there add up to one, we'll come through in a second, those two add up to 180 degrees. So that's going to be critical to answering this question. And also critical is that, whoops, I'm going to do it in a different colour. That angle there in green is the same as that angle there in green, because vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, so really it's going to be a combination of that knowledge which is going to let us get this question right. So let's start working our way around all the various angles. So please annotate your diagram as I do. Okay, so because that angle at B is X, the first thing to note is that angle there is 180 take away X. So that's the first thing we've done. Okay, so that's obviously because angles on a straight line add up to 180. Now we can now work out this angle here, because angles in a triangle add up to 180, so we're obviously looking at triangle ABF. Okay, so working backwards, that's going to be 180, take away 54, and take away 180 minus X. Okay, so just be careful with that claw, so that's 180, take away 54, take away 180, add X. Okay, minusing a minus X. So that's actually going to be minus 54 add X, or if you like, X minus 54. So that angle is X minus 54. Okay, now third thing, all right, going back to what I was saying in purple, because that angle at B is X, that angle at D must be 180 minus X. Okay, that's 180 minus X. Okay. Now, what can we do now? If we go and look at the big triangle, BCE, all right, we are now able to work out what this angle up here in the corner is at C. So I'm just going to repeat that. We're looking at the big triangle, BCE, okay? So, so that angle, so I'll tell you what don't I just go and pop what triangle am I talking about? I'm talking about now, we're now looking at the triangle in orange. Okay, so that triangle BCE is going to be 180, take away X, take away 32, so that's 148 take away X. Okay, so that's 148 take away X. And now various ways to do this, but I think the easiest way now was just to just say that angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. And because I know the angle at B, I know the angle at C, I know the angle at D, I can now go and work out that angle that I've just pointed out. Okay, so that's going to be, so those four angles all add up to 360. All those four angles in that purple shape. So the angle that I've done in red is going to be 360. Take away x, take away 148 minus x, take away 180 minus x. It's all getting quite complicated. Now, so if you go and process that, you get 360 minus x minus 148 add x minus 180 add x. And then simplifying that, okay, we get 32. A couple of those x's cancel out. So 360, take away 148, take away 180, gives us 32 plus x. Okay. Now I could have gone and just done it a slightly different way, and I could have ended up working out what the other green dot was. There's a variety of ways to finish this off, but because I've just gone and worked out that that x minus 54 that I'm just doing over there in light blue, because I've just worked out that angle there, the x minus 54. Obviously, angles on a straight line add up to 180. I've just gone and worked out that angle in red is 32 plus x. Okay, so those two little bits in light blue have got to add up to 180. Okay, so we've got x minus 54. That's the bit in left, and that's the angle at F. All right, so the angle I just did above, plus 32 plus x, that's the other light blue angle. Those together equal 180. So gathering that all up, I get 2x minus 22 equals 180. So 2x equals 202. So x equals 101. Okay, and not many of you got that right. I think one of you got that right. So that is difficult. Okay, I understand why you were thinking that the angle at D looked like it might be 90 degrees. It's not far off, but it isn't. So that was difficult. Okay, so that's the hardest question on the paper. So we've done question 8. So the next,
can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the red bit, why is it minus 148 plus x, not minus x?
Because that's a good question. It's because you're doing a claw there. That minus is effectively a minus 1 in front of the bracket. So when you do that claw, you're minusing a minus x, which is x.
All right, thank you.
Okay, no, it's a good question. Thanks for clarifying that. So our next weakest question was question number 5. So as I said, if the only thing you couldn't get right was question 8, you're welcome to go now if you wish, or listen if you want, but I don't want anyone to feel they're wasting their time. Okay? So question 5 is our second weakest question. Okay, yes, this was right. Okay, so I just need to move. You can't see it. I've got the black box down. Right. Okay. So looking at line L1. Okay, we know that 2y equals 6x minus 5. Just going through there in light green. Okay, that was given in the question. Now, lots of you just went and said, therefore the gradient is 6. It isn't. You've got to get that into y equals mx plus c format. You can't be having 2y, you've got to be having a single y. So you've got to kick off by dividing through by 2, so you get y equals 3x minus 5 over 2. So lots of you went wrong right at the beginning. Now, once you've got it into that y equals mx plus c format, then yes, you can conclude that the gradient of L was 3. That gave you a mark. Now, moving over to L2, line L2, which is perpendicular. Okay. Remember, for a perpendicular gradient, you flip it over and change the sign. A number of you were flipping it over but not changing the sign. So you're giving me a gradient of plus a third. It isn't. It is minus a third. So getting that right gave you your second mark. Now, it passes through the point 9 minus 1. So there's two ways to do this, okay? You don't have to go down using the y minus y1 formula. I mean, I think it's a very nice one to get used to. So I've done it on the screen, both possible ways. So it passes through the point 9 minus 1, just there in light blue. So if you go and use your y minus y1 formula, which I'm just circling in light blue now, it's a bit of a lag. Yeah, there we go there. You substitute in the coordinate 9 minus 1. So y minus y1, that's going to be y minus minus 1. That equals minus a third, open bracket, x minus 9. Multiply it through. And please make sure you read the question, okay? It actually asks for you to give your answer in the format so many lots of y plus so many lots of x equals c. Now, I just assumed it wanted a, b, and c to be integers. So that's why my final answer was 3y plus x equals 6. But it doesn't actually say anywhere that a, b, and c have to be integers. So if you've gone and just left it as y plus a third x equals 2, I have given you full marks, but that's absolutely fine, okay? But if you haven't got it in the format of so many lots of y's plus so many lots of x's equaling the constant, you have lost a mark, okay? Now that bit in purple is just the alternative way of finishing this question off, okay? Rather than using y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, you absolutely can use y equals mx plus c, okay? Y equals mx plus c, and then just substitute in. So we know the coordinate is 9 minus 1, so y is minus 1, x is 9. That allows you to work out what c is, and then you just go back and have your formula that way. But as I said, having the form, if you concluded that the final answer was y equals minus a third x plus 2, you haven't answered the question right and you lost the mark. So that was question 5. I think that one's all right. I think you should all really be aiming to be able to do something like that question 5. That wasn't that difficult, I think. Okay, so just going over the key points again. To work out the initial gradient, it had to be a single amount of y's. Y equals mx plus c. That gave you the gradient of L1. Flip it over, change the sign to get the gradient of L2, and then substitute it into either y minus 1 formula or y equals mx plus c formula to work out the thing. But read the question. Exam technique. In the question, as you read it in the exam, make sure you go and circle ay plus bx equals c, so you don't make that mistake. Right, our third weakest question was question 4. Okay, so and here's question 4. So on the Venn diagram, shade the region which is A union B, but not A union B. Okay, that's the bit I've done in light blue. So A union B is the 2 footballs. Okay, so A union B not is shading everything apart from those 2 footballs. So that's my light blue shading. That is not A union B. Okay, now C is obviously the whole of the bottom football, and I've shaded that in light red or pink, whatever. Okay, that's the bit that I've shaded in light pink. Okay, so the 2 bits where my light blue and my pink overlap is that bit that I've highlighted in green. Well, that almost looks like a smiley face with some ellipses in it. Okay, so that was the answer for part A. Now for part D, part B, excuse me. All right, so the area that is shaded, perhaps I could have put a bit more shading on this to make this clearer, is, I'm just going to put it in now. So the bit that is shaded in the middle is D union E, so that's picking up everything in purple, right? But as well as the F, okay? So it's D union E intersection F, right? So they just need a bit of practice. One of you just didn't read the question and was just still throwing A, B's and C's at me, which is a bit unlucky because I think you kind of got it right. You just got your A's, B's and C's muddled up, your D's and F's. But you've got to be careful. You know, there's only one mark going for it. You only get the mark if you get it right. Okay. There may be some other convoluted correct answers, but I didn't see any. I mean, those of you who wrote other stuff, I did try and check whether yours did in fact work. But that one in black is the definitely works, and that's the one that they were recommending we go. So that's number 4. Oh, I've just number 4. So what have we done? We've done 4, 5, and 8 now, I think. So there's obviously a marked step up in improvement from then onwards. Okay, those were the 3 weak questions. You can see that the remaining ones were all pretty strong. Okay, so I think what I might do now is just rattle through the remaining questions in order. Oh, Ebbs, you've got your hand up. So sorry, I hadn't seen, I don't know how long it's been up. I haven't been looking across. Is that question still relevant, Ebbs?
No.
Okay, sorry, Ebbs. Do feel free to interrupt me. I should be looking up at the hands up, but on my second screen, it doesn't actually pick up all 19 of you who are attending. It's just not a long enough screen. So please, it's very polite of you, but do feel free just to unmute at the time. Okay. So I'm going to go through from the beginning now, guys. I mean, I know it's not strictly in the order of strongest to weakest, but and as I said, if any of you want to leave at this point, you may. I'm not going to be offended, and you can be working on the other questions. So. Oh dear, I think I've just accidentally, maybe not. I thought I might have accidentally unshared my screen. Maybe not. Yeah, I think you're still there. Okay, so lots of you are overcomplicating number 1. Okay, it really wasn't relevant that the cylinder was 10 centimeters high. I think 1 or 2 of you got it right, doing it a really complicated way. I must admit, I was really tired when I was marking these, and I kind of said, oh, I guess you're right. But some of you got 7.1 doing it a really complicated way, which included the 10. So I think you're right, but just make sure you pay attention and you get it right the simple way, okay? So step 1, just go and work out what the area is, okay? So that's pi r squared, pi times 8.2 squared, and that's 1681 over 25 pi. And just bank that for now. Okay, just bank that for now. Now, you need to appreciate that 1.5 litres is 1,500 centimetres cubed. And then all we are saying now is, if we just basically know that we've got a base of, that base is 211.24, I'm just doing it there in blue, how high up can we go to create a volume of 1,500? So we know the base, we just don't know the height. So you simply just had to take your total volume of 1,500 divided by that base of 211.24, and that gave you 7.1 to 1 decimal place as your answer. So some of you were overcomplicating that. So that was number 1. Number 2 was very well done, so I won't dwell on this. 90% of you got this right. Okay, just make sure that you're comfortable that if it's an 8% increase, you know it's a 1.08 multiplier. We're going from the original price to the final price. That's why we're multiplying. So 4.25 times 1.08 is your 4.59. Now, part B, all right, we're still using the same multiplier. It's still the same price increases at the restaurant, okay? But the final price was 9.45, and we've got to work out the original price. So when you're going from final to original, you've got to divide by the multiplier. That's what gave us 8.75. So as I said, that was very well done, 90% as a class. Okay, question 3. So I think as long as you just sort of thought this through, you would be okay. Okay. Now pressure equals force over area. And we need to work out the maximum pressure, P, and take away the minimum pressure, Q. Now, the force is obviously defined. We can't change the force. The force is 105, whatever we do. So my force, I'll just do it in green pen, is always 105. Now, when I want to maximize my pressure, I want to minimize my area. So when I've got the box of 5 and 4 and 3 other dimensions, how would I place that box in order to have the minimum area on the surface, on the table? Well, my two smallest sides are 4 and 3. So my minimum area is 4 times 3, which is 12. So when I'm working out my maximum pressure, I want my minimum area, so I will be dividing by my 12, and that gave me a maximum pressure of 8.75. Now, the same with so when I'm trying to work out the minimum pressure, I'm just doing this in pink. Oh, you can't see that pink, it's got a better color. When I'm doing my minimum pressure, I want to have my maximum area, and I get my maximum area by multiplying the two longer sides together, the 5 and the 4. That is the place that I would have on the table, the side, the 5 and the 4. Okay, so that gives me an area of 20. So that gave me a minimum pressure of 5.25. So then to work out the difference between my maximum pressure and my minimum pressure, 8.75, take away 5.25, giving me the 3.5. So, question 4 we've done. Question 5 we've done. Question 6. This was really well done. Okay, 81% is the class on this. Okay, so you just had to break the code here, didn't you? And we were told that the 24 passengers on the plane are aged between 40 and 60. So that's the information that allows us to break the code. So go and have a look at the 40 to 60. And you can see, looking at the baby squares, all right, there's 20 along and 6 up. So there's 120 baby squares there. So I know, this is me breaking the code, that 24 passengers are represented by 120 baby squares. So dividing by 5, I can see that each passenger is worth 5 baby squares. So that really allows me to answer this question. So doing part A, I've added up all of the baby squares. So you just go along and for each of those rectangles, you do base times height and baby squares. So my first one is 20, then 90, then 160, then 150, then 120, then 80. Add all those together, I get 620 baby squares. Divide that by 5 and you get an answer of 124. Now you may not have gone down the baby square route. You may have done it other ways, but I think that was the easiest way to do it. Now for part B, work out an estimate the probability that the person is older than 55. So go and look up at your diagram and work out where 55 is. That's there where I put the line. Now, the number of baby squares which are older than 55 to the right of that is that little area there, which is 5 by 6. So that's 30 baby squares. And then obviously the 80 on the end. 30 plus 80 is 110 baby squares. That's 110 baby squares out of a total of 620, giving me 22 over 124. Now, I think it was this question, where some of you are still insisting on giving it to me as a decimal. Let me just see if the decimal reminds me. Yes, I think it was this one. You've just given me like 0.177 or 0.18 or something. I apologise if this is the wrong question, but just look, please keep it as an exact fraction. Don't start going over to decimals, okay? So if I'm right and I'm remembering the correct question, I docked quite a few of you 1 mark on that. I think it was this question, because you just insisting on going from a perfectly correct exact answer to giving me something incorrect. And the mark scheme backed me up. It's not just me being awkward. They were only having any of those equivalent fractions as the acceptable final answer. Right, now, right, question 7. This was well done. So well done, everybody. So at the top, you've just got to take any two brackets and multiply them out and simplify. So I left the first bracket alone to start. Oops, sorry, I'll just pick up my fluorescent pen. So I went and left my x plus 2 unchanged and just spent my time multiplying 2x plus 3 by x minus 7. Now that gave me 2x squared minus 14x plus 3x minus 21, which I then simplified. You then go back and you multiply this by that bracket that you haven't used yet. So I did x times 2x squared, x times minus 11x, x times minus 21, 2 times 2x squared, 2 times minus 11x, 2 times minus 21. That gives you all that stuff that I've just underlined in orange. Gather like terms, that gives you the correct answer. So, as I said, majority of you got that right, okay? 1 or 2 of you got in a muddle, so it's not that difficult. If you're going to multiply 3 brackets together, leave 1 bracket alone, multiply the other 2 together and simplify, and then take that simplified bracket and multiply that by the bracket that you've left alone. Now, well done. Lots of you got part B right. Some of you were starting off okay, and then we're getting into a muddle. So let's just talk you through this step by step. So your first goal is to get it all onto one line. Stop it being a fraction. So we need to undo this dividing by 2m minus 1. So our opening step is to multiply both sides by 2m minus y. Now please put that in a bracket. That will remind you to then do the claw. And that gives you that second line. Now you had to get all the way down to there to pick up your mark. Okay, just getting that first line of working wasn't enough. Now your next goal is to get everything with m on one side, because that's the subject, and any terms without m on the other. So I've gone and taken away m and added p squared y to both sides. Then that means I've got all my terms with m on the left, the circled there in green, and all my terms which do not have m in them are now on the right, which I'm just circling in orange. Bit of a lag, but it will come through in a second. There we go. So, because I've done that, and this is the clever bit, I can now factorize the left-hand side and take the m out. Okay, so factorizing, I can take out the m, and that's the clever bit. So take out an m, so fully factorize the left-hand side. That now isolates m. For the first time, I've only got a single m cropping up in the equation. Okay, and then finally, to leave that m on its own, because you've presently got m times the bracket, you just undo that timesing the bracket by dividing by the bracket. So m equals x plus t squared y all over 2p squared minus 1, and it's no longer any need for the bracket. Now this is just a nicety, but can you try and put your letters in alphabetical order? I don't think you'd lose a mark, but please try and write p squared y rather than yp squared. It just makes you look a bit more top set. It just makes you look a bit more professional. Okay, so that's it. So I am going to stop the recording now.